Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm Will, and I got my co-host over here, the Greeze. Say hello, Greeze.
Guys, the whiskey world looks like that zoo that the kangaroos started punching people. Like, what are
The
they
one
called?
where I fought the kangaroo?
Yeah, you fought the kangaroo.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's some ups and some downs. There's all around. So Noah is getting on the ark, and not every animal's making on it because there's been some bad decisions out there.
Right.
We've got things falling off trees out here, and nobody knows how to put the fruit back on.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and one of the big things that we are going to get to in a little bit, so bear with us, is that big news out of Uncle Nearest. But stick around. You're not going to want to miss our take on that.
You knew we were getting there.
Yeah.
But we got all kinds of things.
But we got to kind of frame where we're at right now, because this is an article that came out of New York Post that says Kentucky's $9 billion whiskey industry in crisis as Gen Z drinkers shun bourbon and tariffs take a toll. It goes into how there's a couple of distilleries that have filed for bankruptcy recently. We know Kentucky Owl did late last year.
Yep.
Then Luca Mariano Distillery, which I didn't know of, but apparently they built like a big facility and like only months later had to file for bankruptcy.
Yeah, like the same year.
Yeah. Garrard County Distilling, also one I'd not heard of, which is actually rare in this game these days, but it's filing for bankruptcy as well with nearly $26 million in debt. We mentioned Kentucky Owl. There's also news
The old SunTrust Bank's coming after them.
not Kentucky Owl,
the
Luca Mariano.
Luca.
It's Truist, Logan. Truist Grease.
Yeah.
It's Truist.
I
now.
understand it's Truist, but it's SunTrust.
Yeah, but I mean, this just is
Just
all
like Wells
on
Fargo
the
with
heels.
Wachovia.
It's what we were talking about for a while, that back when we did that, the future of the bourbon boom is over video, that, we were going to start to see these things. We're going to start to see brands that are not necessarily as established as they should be, whether they're NDPs or just trying to cash in, are going to start to close down. And we're starting to see that. Some of these are ones that we had not heard of, but filing for bankruptcy doesn't mean necessarily that they will end up completely going away. It's not a good sign. It just means they're going to go into restructuring and try to fend off the bank selling them for parts. But then that's Brown-Forman having all those layoffs, shuttering their cooperage, trying to make a more efficient business while they're reading the writing on the wall, all the age statements that are coming out now as these established brands try to move product. There's a lot going on here, folks. It's what we've been telling you.
And don't even think that you're just sitting at home like, oh, man, these distilleries deserved it, all that other stuff. You guys know that you bought some freaking stuff off secondary when the market was hot, and now you're sitting on it, and you're like, man, I lost $800 on this freaking, I don't know.
I think it was just it was like a Blue Moon finished Nulu. They took like Blue Moon beer casks.
Is Nulu still around?
I think so. I don't know.
I haven't seen, like, there used to be that used to be a thing.
But that you spent $800 on that.
Yeah.
You did. And now you're stuck with it.
Oh, good luck. Good luck trying to sell a freaking toasted rye from MGP that's 4 years old that you overpaid for. Good job.
When you start to look at this, though, there's, according to the article, 14.3 million barrels of whiskey aging in Kentucky right now. That's more than 2 barrels for every person living in the state.
Yeah, dude.
That's with American whiskey sales dropping 1.8% in 2024.
Now, Apocalypse, Kentucky's the zone.
Yeah, that's where you go.
That's where you need to go.
Yeah.
Like, they've got, protections there, and then they've got 2 barrels per person.
So this is also what's interesting is that the overall trend has seen Americans drinking less. However, there were the anomalies like the bourbon boom, which was in contrast with what was going on in the general population. That category was elevated for quite some time while the consumption of alcohol writ large was going down. But now we're seeing Gen Z consuming 20%.
Is that factoring in the pandemic?
Well, this is over 20 years is what they say, is that the adults who under 35 who drink fell from 72% in the early 2000s 62% today. So
wait. 72% drink.
72% of adults under 35 drank in the early 2000s. That's down to 62% today.
Honestly, 62%?
Pretty good.
It's pretty good.
But here's the other.
Give me a slice of that.
Here's the other caveat, though. Gen Z is consuming 20% less alcohol per capita than millennials did at the same age. So the generation following us, now they're aging out of college. They're in the workforce. They've got some disposable income. It's not just Natty Light anymore. That entire generation is another 20% down from where we were when we were their age. That's a big problem. I have a buddy who's in private equity that he was visiting with me, and we were talking about whiskey and all sorts of stuff, and that his firm, they were looking at some acquisitions of a certain beverage category, and they started to do the research and then decided as a firm that not just that category, alcohol in general, toxic asset, basically, they are not touching it. Yep. So they will not invest at all in that. They do not see the return that they would be putting in for it. That's pretty devastating for an industry in all encompassing.
Well, yeah, you just look at it on a simple scale of like people with money not wanting to do what you're doing.
Right.
Not a great look. What I found interesting about this article, you sent it to me, Will, and I read it.
I know you
You
at least got a summary from like ChatGPT.
I did. Well, I'll let you look at my chat history. I didn't even do that. Now, here's the deal. They were like saying like with the popularity of seltzers and like all this alternative stuff, no mention of THC in there, Will.
Sure.
And I think the Gen Z, like, I don't know, that's just kind of the thing that they're into.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get hungover, like it is, I don't know if it's more socially acceptable, but it's not like everybody knows you're on weed necessarily. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, I'm just
yes, you do.
I'm just saying, you can go to church.
Okay.
You can't go to church smelling like whiskey.
You're an idiot.
I saw God today.
Oh my goodness. So
sorry.
But this is the other issues they're saying, like the financial pressures of this decrease, as well as how much debt that a lot of these distilleries took on. They overextended themselves, and now you're starting to see the market deteriorate. That is leading to what is going to be collapses. There are so many people that would argue with us and say, I don't think you're going to see brands falling apart that quickly. It's going to take a while.
Yeah.
You're going to see the prices are still going to be inflated for a really long time. I'm actually very bearish on the market, but bullish on prices coming down very quickly. I mean, I walked into a store the other day and they had Blanton sitting out. Sitting out at E.H. Taylor, Blanton's, and Buffalo Trace handles were sitting out.
Yeah, small batches.
That's a thing.
Everywhere.
That's not you're not gonna see that everywhere, but that is now starting to happen in a market where that would not happen even 6 months ago. It was sitting there and it didn't come in that day. I'll tell you that also. So
yeah. So some interesting numbers.
Yeah. Because you found this as well. I think this adds to the entire story.
Yeah. So Bullet is down. It fell 7.3%, according to Diageo.
These are devastating
That
numbers.
is so much money. Like, and I mean, I don't know what the margin is at all, but that feels like devastation. And then the 6-month earnings report from Campari reported that wild turkey sales are down 8.1%, which actually, like, I'm actually surprised that that's down more than, like, let's say a Bullet or there was another one. Diageo reported as a whole that they were up slightly 1.7%, although the profits were down 0.7%.
Well,
so that's smaller as a whole.
I mean, cost of things going up, inflation, cost of goods, things of that. increasing would lower your profit, even if you have a 1% increase in sales across the board. But remember, Diageo owns so many products, many products. I mean, I think they even own Guinness. You know, like,
and I mean, even if you think about the calendar year in January, like barrels were more expensive than they are now. Now you can go and source these barrels. You can get barrels. You can do all this other stuff, and it's a little cheaper because there's a lot of product out there that you can get your hands on. So yeah, I can see, you know, at least in Diageo, those prices earlier on in January kind of affecting the bottom line of the year. But
so all that leads to there's chaos going on for a lot of these brands, right?
and we'll get the earnings report for Brown-Forman, which is Jack, Woodford, Old Forester, August 28th. So I'm assuming we'll circle back on this.
Well, because and they had a horrible earnings report, and that's when they announced the layoffs as well as shuttering the cooperage. That was earlier this year, so this should be.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
That more on Woodford's side of things than say Jack?
No, that
it was just as a whole everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't dive into the details, but they across the board were down. And I know that for also a fact, anecdotally from people about the that are liquor store owners, that Old Number 7 is not moving like it used to. Yeah. And here's the other thing too that compounds when you think of a younger generation not drinking, being 20% down in the way that they're consuming.
The whole category, yeah.
That plays into how these brands are going to be planning for the future if they're already getting data about an entire generation. If you were to take the mindset of, okay, well, maybe the generation after them will kind of rebel. Like, oh, I don't want to be like the generation before us. We're into whiskey.
Yeah.
Okay. So say you make up half of that, whatever. Why I think this is a 20 to 30 year problem is because
that's a bold statement.
I think it is. I think
I
this
don't mind
is
you being bold.
I think it's like when the light whiskeys and the blended whiskeys became a thing because people were more interested in vodka, right? That's why a lot of these brands started putting those out. Light whiskeys, blended whiskeys, because they thought it would be more attractive to people because vodka was big. It was a clear spirit. It was thought to be healthier.
Yeah, lower calories.
So I think a lot of this, they even mentioned like the changing of social norms, growing health awareness. Now, that's not the same. Like the health awareness towards alcohol now is about actual health, not like less calories. It's clear, so it must be cleaner. But
that's some Greeze logic.
Like the actual problems with alcohol consumption. But when you think about, okay, if the younger generation picks back up a little bit, Gen Alpha, I think is what it's called. Okay.
That's the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're children.
So we're making the loop.
Yeah. No, we're just writing off Gen Z.
Yeah.
Gen Alpha, which are like babies, young kids right now.
Yeah.
You're at least 25 years from that data really helping.
Yeah, because they're not old enough to drink.
And currently, right. They at least can't purchase it.
We have to wait to figure it out.
They can't purchase it, okay? But then you think of that slump. Say demand goes back up. Then you're hit with rebuilding, trying to get stuff back out, trying to innovate again, hoping that trend continues. They're going to be more cautious. So that's why I'm like, this is a 30-year trough that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Crazy. Good stuff for us, though, if we keep drinking it.
I mean, unless there's another pandemic.
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Well, let's not hope for that.
No, I don't want to hope for that.
All right. So, but that all leads us to the big news because that's kind of the market conditions right now, right? Yeah. So this came out last week, and I was going to do another like quick hit video.
I wanted you to.
And I just didn't have it in me. I was so spent from the week that I didn't. So you're getting it now. You're getting this unscripted. You're getting this with Greeze, which is the reason I wanted to do it without him is because whenever we talk about things like lawsuits, it completely terrifies me. Also why we're not live anymore.
Yeah. Then there's always the question of defamation.
All right, we're just going to skip the Uncle Nearest topic for today. So
I'll be good.
Here's what's going on. Okay, this federal lawsuit, I believe, was filed July 31st. And then it started, some people started to see it. I went, got the lawsuit, read through it. So before we get into any of this, this is a lawsuit, federal lawsuit, Eastern District of Tennessee, from Farm Credit Mid-America is suing Uncle Nearest, as well as a subsidiary, their real estate holding company, and Fawn and Keith Weaver. Here is what I want to say at the outset. This is a civil lawsuit. This isn't federal charges from the DOJ.
Yep.
So this is a civil lawsuit all about money, and as well as we at this time, because we don't have their reply in court, and I believe there's a hearing set in the next few days, an initial hearing on a receivership. So we've only seen a few things from Fawn on the internet that she's posted.
Yeah, she's posted some videos.
We haven't seen what their legal reply to this is. So these are allegations from the lender against Uncle Nearest. Got to put that out there that these are allegations. They will have their time in court to defend themselves, but the allegations aren't great.
No,
it's not a great situation.
It's not a good thing. It's not a good look. Do you think, all right, before we dive into the whole things.
Yeah.
How does this civil, if it can or if it will, or like, what's your overall take on the possibility of it becoming a federal crime? This is me just wanting to know from somebody that's educated.
So what I would say is that, once again, this is a civil lawsuit from the lender to the creditor, as far as to the borrower. The borrower. As far as I know, they have not gone to the DOJ, gone to the U.S. attorney in East Tennessee and said, we're turning this over. We think that there's criminal activity. There is fraud here. As far as I know, they've not done that to ask for an investigation to be opened. That does not mean that a U.S. attorney seeing this, reading articles, doesn't look into it and do their own investigation. Whenever there is banking and money and things of that nature, it also doesn't mean that the IRS isn't going to take a quick peek at it, because now it's starting to get news. It's starting to get some national news because of the story that Uncle Nearest brought out with their entire brand. It was celebrated. So actually, pour us up some Uncle Nearest while we dive into this.
So this is a signed bottle. I wasn't going to open it.
And once again, it's devastating for, one, the community of Shelbyville, because a lot of jobs, a lot of tourism,
those people, dude,
to a place that doesn't get tourism, unless you're going for the Musgrave Pencil Company, which I think I would be the only person doing that. It's not like you're going there. You pass through it on your way to Jack Daniel's. They have built a beautiful facility. They built a bar that was a world record holder of like the longest bar. It's beautiful. So there's a lot of things to be disheartened about by this, but here's what is alleged by the bank, Farm Credit Mid-America, against Uncle Nearest Incorporated, Nearest Green Distillery, Uncle Nearest Real Estate Holdings LLC, and founders Fawn and Keith Weaver. They are seeking the repayment of $108 million in loans that the creditor is saying the borrower has defaulted on. Upon this, they have not repaid, according to the allegations, they have not repaid a revolving loan at maturity. They missed interest and principal payments across several of the loans that were included in this big package. They are alleging that some financial covenants and things that were a part of the borrowing package, like maintaining a specific net worth, maintaining liquidity and cash flow, things of this nature, were not lived up to. That they
originally not disclosed, right? Like
no,
and then it's
no. These are things that were, and there were some other things about like them not getting specific filing.
Yeah.
But that they were not like the net worth and thing of that. Like they had to maintain a net worth of above $1, and so a positive net worth was just a requirement of this loan. They were not able to do that. They allege that there was at least $21 million of whiskey that was collateral, that was a part of the loan. Like these are assets that back the loan that were sold off at a discount, and those weren't reported to the bank that they were selling off part of what was collateral for the loan because they were holding it to maturity at a certain level.
Yeah.
They sold it off early at a discount, did not report that to the lender, and that lender found that out by doing inventory.
So basically
inspections.
The security that the loan office or whatever had in that company is now gone.
So
right?
not all of it.
Well, yeah,
because
but
there's real estate and there's buildings
right.
and there's other stuff, but that was a chunk of that. There was also some stuff that was like earmarked for one thing in the loan that was then used to buy a $2 million property in Martha's Vineyard. That was then also bought in the name of an entity that wasn't party to the loan. Then that was then mortgaged to another lender subsequently. So they took out another mortgage allegedly on that property. That one is probably the one where there's the most potential for criminal exposure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, that sounds.
Once again, I'm not their lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. But reading that one, if that was something that someone wanted to hunt down, I feel like that would be the angle that a prosecutor would be like, something doesn't smell right there. I want to get to the bottom of it. Now, once again, we haven't heard their reply of those things. So what their defense is. This is just the offensive, the plaintiff's writings and allegations. I'm going to say that a million times just so we're covered. Other things like failure to provide financial reports, bank records, organization documents. They were unable to verify the cash flow and account structure. The own financial forecasts allegedly showed insufficient liquidity to meet ongoing obligations. So they are requesting the court immediately put in a receiver, which is a third party that comes in and takes control of the operations and assets of the company. That's to protect the lender, that the company will not degrade the value of the company even more and further hinder their ability to get their $108 million repaid. That is something that is agreed to, especially in a large loan like this. Like if we are in default, we agree that a third-party receiver shall be appointed.
I've never seen the word receiver so much in my life than all these daggum articles I'm seeing.
Well, that is
There's
typical.
so many receivers out there receiving
when
whiskey.
you go into default, and you have a large debt with a bank, they will put in a receiver to basically take your hands off the business because you weren't repaying them, and it's like so that you can't just spend the money or make things go further south or like start selling off assets and trying to get out of there. So it's someone that can basically say, pause, I'm going to make sure this doesn't degrade further, while they go through then the rest of the legal process of getting their money back. Normally, shortly after receiver, you see someone filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy protections, which then allows them to try to restructure or do whatever. But there's a lot in here.
The biggest thing that I think is so unfortunate, you kind of you kind of hit on it a little bit, is obviously the employees. Like, I can't imagine there not being layoffs, period, if not totally, depending on what they decide to do with it, but also the town. Like, that town, restaurants, hotels, Airbnbs, like all these things that when people come to an area, they do. The taxes, the tax revenue that they have, I'm sure the city's just like, holy crap, like we're about to lose our bankroll for sales tax and all kinds of stuff like that. I feel awful for those people. I feel like that, I feel like it, now this is alleged because of, you know, we haven't heard their response. We don't know if they're guilty or not. But on paper, it just looks very unfortunate, and it looks like, you know, and people weren't protected as much as they should have.
A poor word because it's a civil lawsuit. Like guilty, you normally think of. Yes, you could have a guilty verdict in a trial over this, but once again, civil lawsuit. And sometimes even in civil lawsuits, the lawyers will try to throw in language that like questionably criminal activity, like things of that, to try and color it more to make it seem like, or try to prompt or prod that. I didn't really read it that way. Even the section about the Martha's Vineyard property, it was pretty ticked off, but it didn't say appears to be fraud. Or even say fraudulent. Like you could say in even a civil suit, like fraudulently did this, something like that. As far as I remember, and I can even pull up the full document, but I don't believe it even said fraudulent or anything of that.
Is there
nature.
A link to the complaint that we could put in the description? Is there a link, or do you have to pay for it?
So I paid for it on Pacer. I'd have to. I think we'd have to host it ourselves.
Yeah, we could probably throw it up on Google Drive or something for people to see it and read it.
Yeah, but once again, it's not great.
Yeah, no, like so when the news came out, Will immediately like, oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and buy this complaint.
Yeah,
and he found it. And you call me or text me, and you're like, it's not good.
Yeah,
it's not good.
And here's also why it's unfortunate. So back in 2016 is when the New York Times wrote the big article, and I believe it was written by Clay Risen, who's a very well-known author and writer, about the Nearest Green story. And the headline was Jack Daniels embraces a hidden ingredient, help from a slave. And it was June 25th, 2016 is when it was published. And it talked about during the 150th anniversary of Jack Daniels, they started to bring forward this story. And even Nelson Eddy is quoted in the article, like, it's taken something like the anniversary, the 150th, for us to start to talk about ourselves. And it talked about how Nearest Green was one of Dan Call's slaves who Jack Daniels went to live with and be an apprentice with. And then after Nearest was freed, he was then employed by Jack Daniels, and he taught Jack how to make whiskey, and was the first. It wasn't a master distiller then, but it was a head distiller or distiller. That title, master distiller, didn't really come along until more modern times, but it was everywhere. Everyone was talking about this story. Jack Daniels then embraced it as a part of the lore and the tour, and you hear about that now. And then,
they actually opened up this new kind of area in their tour that kind of you land in, and it's got a video there, and it discusses Nearest Green and kind of that historic history of that.
And then
really cool.
We saw that Fawn Weaver, very soon after that, there was a follow-up also by Clay Risen. This was about a year later this article was published. And it was titled, When Jack Daniels Failed to Honor a Slave, an Author Rewrote History. And it says, Fawn Weaver was on vacation in Singapore last summer when she first read about Nearest Green, the Tennessee slave who taught Jack Daniel how to make whiskey. And then it went on that she decided then, it said, determined to see change herself. She was soon on a plane from her home in Los Angeles to Nashville. When she got to Lynchburg, there was no trace of green. And so that was part of why she decided to move forward.
Yeah, she saw a story that wasn't being told.
And introduced Uncle Nearest, 1856, and started this company. And there was a big splash at the time of them using that story and paying tribute to that just a few miles down the road from Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels actually did things in partnership with Uncle Nearest. They didn't necessarily see them as a competitor. They saw it as something to embrace and celebrate. And so I think that's another, the tragic about the economy of a small town in Tennessee is tragic as well, but also that now this big story, she was, celebrated in business magazines as this, high power CEO that
Forbes
saw this and went forward. And now this chapter is going to taint that entire story that was a beautiful story that was coming out and that we could hear about. And that's, I think, also a casualty of this as well. And they are fighting back. She has posted things on Instagram, little reels.
I'm kind of shocked at that. It's very like, if they want to fight, I'll give them a fight kind of mentality.
They're trying to smear us.
They're trying
all
to smear
that stuff.
And now here's the deal. We know that if you say it, it's true. Like what
publicity wise, PR wise, I don't think it's a bad move of proudly saying we're going to fight it. We are, this is ridiculous. It's just a smear campaign. The truth will come out. But if you want any chance of surviving it PR wise, I do feel like going on the offensive, she's not, I don't think, doing anything that would jeopardize their defense by saying, like, putting out on the record, like going through the lawsuit, like, this isn't true. This isn't true. This isn't true. They got this wrong. Like, I feel like that would be harmful. Just making rally cry. We're strong. Our family is strong. We were built for this. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
What about the call to empty the shelves and then do it
I don't think I saw that one. I mean, one, if you're needing revenue and you need a boost in your bottom line as a part of your defense and saying, look, things are turning around, not a bad business strategy. Because they've got a small deadline. Now, if the bank has the documents to back it up and say, they're in default, here are the documents, we need a receiver, she's no longer running that company in just a few days.
Yeah.
Now they can continue to fight it. They can try to get it out of receivership. They can agree on a restructuring plan,
but there's still
a loan revision. And then there is an opportunity to come back in. But as far as the next few days, she's not leading Uncle Nearest Distillery if the court grants a receivership very quickly.
Yeah. And that'll probably happen quick, you're saying. I would imagine that with that much money involved, that's going to be a quick.
Well, I believe the hearing is August 7th. We're recording this on the 6th. That's tomorrow. So I think the first initial hearing is tomorrow. So we, hey, you better get this out quick, Greeze.
Well, if we have any updates, hit the description. I'll label it and say, here's an article or whatever to go further into that once we know something. I don't think it's a bad business move for her to do that. I was just kind of shocked at, like, I don't know. It seems like back up against the wall, the only thing that'll fix this is money. Y'all go buy everything. Like,
well, at the end of the day,
the tone that it was. It
is a civil lawsuit that is all about money. So in some ways, she's not wrong. She's not wrong to say that. And now the problem being in 3-tier system, that revenue is not going directly to them. These bottles aren't consignment. If you're going and clearing the shelves in a liquor store, that isn't going to boost their revenue immediately.
Yeah.
Those bottles have already been bought, so you would need that, which would be a delayed effect that distributors like, we need a bunch more because they're sold out. And so that's not happening just by all of a sudden seeing a spike in sales at local retailers. So,
there was a quote that I sent you, and I'm trying to find it. Okay. So in one of her videos, I actually sent you this quote because I just thought it was like, I don't understand how this can be said, but the family in this business was built for this exact moment. I don't understand that.
Adversity, standing up to adversity.
Okay.
That's all that means, is that like we are strong. We were built for this moment.
I thought it was like we're gonna build this big old business. We're gonna figure out how to get some money out of it.
No,
and we're out.
No, 100%. It once again, statements like that can be misconstrued, though.
Right.
But also, when you're looking at a time, there's been chatter and people talking about like, oh, well, then maybe Jack Daniels will swoop up and buy it up, and then they'll own the story. And it's like, no one is going to buy it.
As Brown Foreman is reporting losses. And two, here's the deal: when number one, the tour is great. When I went there, I saw Fawn. We hugged it out. I think she was a very inspirational person. She still is. She still has a very
charismatic. Yes. Love her. Yeah.
But all the way down to the nails, and the floor had a story. Like, there was just story built everywhere. But on the tour, you pass a bunch of barrels that are aging in these barrel houses. Mm-hmm. They're not big barrel houses by any means. But when I was going through there, it was like all the stock and stuff was less than 2 years old. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how, because they don't have a still. They're not producing their own distillate. And the stuff that they did have in the rick house was super young. So I don't even necessarily know, if the product that they do hold is worth anything. Yeah. Like, it could be all bad, And what we're drinking right now is actually a blend. It's the Master Blend Edition. And this is Edie Butler who did this one. This is batch number 5, 118.4 proof. And let me go ahead and tell you something. It's freaking great. It's really good. It is really good. But it's also not theirs. And it's also...
But do they have a still? Have they even made any of their own distillate, or is it all in perpetuity source?
I don't know. If you guys know, throw it in the description or the comments. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about it. It's not visual within their distillery. It's not part of their story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if they were distilling, that would be a really big selling point in their development story. And I didn't hear anything about that. So a lot of this stuff is sourced. Now, it's sourced from Tennessee. It's distilled in Tennessee. It's aged in Tennessee, bottled by Uncle Nearest. Mm-hmm. But I haven't seen anything out there that makes me think that they've got a still somewhere that was producing whiskey. And the stuff that they do have, who knows if it's good. So I don't even know if, let's just say it's pennies on the dollar that people can buy this for.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an established brand that does that. I don't think it's a Brown Foreman. I don't think it's a Diageo. I don't think it's any of that. I think there would probably have to be some private investors coming in, but then they would have to figure out how the heck they're going to move it if they have anything to move.
Right.
Because you had mentioned earlier that they sold a bunch of their stock assets off, and then didn't let the bank know that collateral that they put up now doesn't exist.
Right.
And I'm assuming they took that cash flow and put it in to evaluate the company and show good faith as far as income coming.
Well, no, what they did was they sold it at a discount to pay off other debts from other lenders. So not even this bank. So it was, and that's alleged in the lawsuit. Now, I was searching to see their website to see if they had a distillery, and apparently they have now filed their response, which is normal before a hearing, that the defense will file a response.
So is the response out?
Yeah. So
Breaking news.
Here's the deal.
Breaking news.
Here's the deal. Either we come back to people later or we take a pause and edit while I download
Listen.
Because that'll take a couple minutes.
While we wait, while we break right here, I'll throw up a couple of videos that we have seen from Fawn Weaver for you guys to have context as far as what we've been talking about as far as her statements and all of this.
The first to speak seems right until someone comes forward and cross-examines. Proverbs 18:17. Well, my response has been filed, and I trust the truth will now get just as much attention on social media and in the press as the intentional misleadings and hit pieces. Y'all, I had hit pieces. That is kind of cool. Make sure to read the emails attached as exhibits. They're doozies. But before you go and read that, since so many eyes are on me right now, I'll take a page from Winston Churchill and Warren Buffett. Never waste a good crisis. So let me run some stats for you, then I've got a request. Uncle Nearest is the only independent whiskey brand in the top 50 and one of the few spirit brands, period, seeing double-digit growth in revenue, volume, and velocity. Over the past week or so, I've traveled the country meeting with our customers, distributors, and Uncle Nearest enthusiasts. The first stop was the DMV, where our year-over-year growth is 44%. Then I went to Ohio, where our growth is sitting at 38%. Then Texas, where we've grown 33%, 50% in July alone. And Georgia, where I just left a couple days ago, y'all are just showing out at 49% year-over-year growth. In a backdrop of industry decline and disarray, Uncle Nearest is the shining star, growing against impossible odds. And because of y'all, Nearest Green Distillery continues to see year-over-year growth in tourism revenue, possibly making us one of one in the entire industry on that front. So was the reason so many were willing to take the bait and jump to negative conclusions before waiting or even asking for the truth because of our success? Who knows? What I do know is this: Uncle Nearest is having its strongest year in the market ever, and I'm not letting anything slow us down. And this is where you can help. Make sure our distributors and our retail partners, our restaurants and bar partners, let them know that Uncle Nearest is bigger than whiskey, that we're building the next great American brand, and our supporters, the strongest this business has ever seen. How do you do that? Go clear out the shelves. Go to your local store and literally buy every bottle of Uncle Nearest and Nearest Green. And when that store restocks, do it again. Let them know any hurdles we face while building this business, we'll keep jumping over them together. Because this team and family was built for this exact moment. And no 48-hour news cycle is going to change that. In an era where people hurl arrows the moment anything negative is said about someone highly regarded, stand in the gap with the truth. You've watched us build this company from the ground up with integrity and against all odds, seeing every high and every low. You've been with us every step of the way, and Keith and I couldn't be more grateful, encouraged, and excited for where we're headed. I've got a little Uncle Nearest in my glass, and my Sabbath is about to begin, my favorite 24 hours of the week. So I'll leave you with this. Regulators, mount up. I love and appreciate y'all. Cheers.
Hey, Greeze. I accidentally double tapped, so I was recording that whole time. And guess how long we were gone?
14 minutes.
Well, yeah, but by the time it was like almost 15, by the time I actually did that and we started 15 minutes.
We did the 15.
We just took a real 15.
Yes.
First time ever.
We left.
We took a full 15 and we're back.
We left.
Yeah.
What did we drink?
Uncle Nearest. Yeah, but we actually do have something for a review for a 15 if we ever get to it. But this is, so what happened is when I was looking and I didn't check the docket before I came over. I should have. That's on me, y'all.
Because it did come out a little earlier.
But they did file their response. So this is the brief that was filed by Uncle Nearest and Fawn and Keith Weaver's attorneys. They were saying they put basically their defense, what they're going to argue before the court.
I have several incompetent questions.
The hearing is tomorrow as well. So this was filed before so that this is the court has their brief. This is the defendant's response in opposition to plaintiff's emergency motion for the immediate appointment of a receiver.
Yeah.
What's your question?
I was, so the CFO being fired was like, I saw that.
Well, no, we didn't even, that wasn't even in that. People don't know about that yet.
Oh.
So let me give a little rundown of what their defense is.
But people probably do because I
They
saw it out
don't.
in the webs.
They probably don't, but that
Okay.
is a part of their defense. So let me go ahead and give you this. Basically, what it all boils down to in the defense, and honestly, it was a compelling read. It was good. We'll see what the court does. It is up to the court, and they are technically in default. So that is, the court can issue this and say you can have a receivership granted.
I will say this: when Will was reading it, I looked over there and he goes, "That's a pretty good response."
I mean, there were some compelling arguments that they make. There's ones I want to know more information about because they cover their bases, but there are still questions that are left, which, when they're arguing this before a judge this isn't a jury trial, the judge can grant or deny the receiver. They're laying out their case to a judge, a federal judge. Yeah. So what they say in this is that they are actually victims of fraud themselves. They had a CFO, and the main one that they attacked was the overstated barrel inventory, that they overstated how many barrels they were as a part of getting their loan. For some people, if you watched a lot of like the cases against Donald Trump, but when he was running for president, one of them was a civil case in New York where they were alleging he overstated the value of the Mar-a-Lago estate in order to get better loan terms or to get a higher loan. Now, the difference there in what his defense was is that he was never in default and the banks kept doing business with him. That was never an issue. The problem here is that they aren't in the greatest financial position. And by the way, that company went into a receivership, if I remember correctly, the Trump organization. So they took them out of control of it and slapped a $500 million fine on him. Now, this is different because it's not necessarily the same circumstances, and they are claiming you are in default, and this is the bank bringing it. It's not the state of New York bringing it like happened there. This one is they're saying the $21 million overstatement in inventory that was used as collateral to secure more loans was that the CFO was the one who fraudulently submitted those inventory lists. Now, Fawn Weaver did sign off on the loan request. So to some degree, the buck does stop with her, that she is responsible for the request and things of that, but she said she never reviewed the inventory. She wasn't even a part of that. That was all the CFO. So they are saying that he acted alone. He claimed 77,000 barrels existed. There weren't that many barrels, and that got them better loan terms. They also are saying that they are actually were in negotiations with the bank, which isn't surprising, actually. They're not going to out of nowhere throw this into federal court. And sometimes throwing it into federal court is a negotiating tool by a lender. But she's saying they didn't know about the misrepresentation. And when they did, they fired him, and they had been trying to work that out with the bank in general. What that doesn't answer for me, though, is some of the barrels that were sold off that they allege to pay off other creditors when that was collateral for their loan. So there's still some unanswered questions there. Next, we go to the Martha's Vineyard property. They say they knew about it, which actually they say in the complaint that they knew about this, that it was pitched to them. So they're like, they knew about it. They even went to an event we had there, some people from the bank. That's not really what they're complaining about with the fact that they bought the Martha's Vineyard property. They are saying they bought it under a different LLC that wasn't a party to their
connected to the
loan. And then on top of that, they got a mortgage against it for like $1.7 or $1.5 million with a different bank. So now that's double leveraged. Yeah. It's got a mortgage from one company and it's got a mortgage from another company on it, not the same one. So that would also raise questions. Did they let their second mortgage company know when they got that second mortgage and used that house as collateral that while it was bought with cash, that cash that was bought was was loan proceeds. It wasn't. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions there.
Now here's the deal. If the bank knew about the Martha's Vineyard, purchase, as a bank, I would understand that as like, okay, it's actually going into a more secured asset than necessarily a freaking barrel of whiskey.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, yeah, sure. That $2 million, sure. Use that, buy real estate, buy whatever you need. At least it's more secure. But then they take it out of that bank's hands.
Right.
And it's not associated with that anymore. And my question would be, following that is, what would happen in that situation if they sold the Martha's Vineyard and it's under a different name? Is that now like a different cash like situation and they don't, it's not tied to the loan anymore?
This is where
Uncle Nearest as a whole has to front that.
This is what they're arguing in their response, is that because they never amended the loan documents to include that as collateral, that those were loan proceeds that could have been spent on marketing, on anything that are sunk costs that have to be repaid back, but they were tied to original collateral. They weren't tied to that as collateral. That's what Uncle Nearest is arguing.
Yeah.
And so therefore the only person at the sale of the property that would necessarily have to be repaid was that second mortgage company that they got a mortgage against the property for $1.7 million. It sounds like they double dipped on, they had the money, they bought a property and were able to get another loan on it.
Yeah.
But they still had the property to use.
It was basically like a HELOC.
That there's going to be a paper trail and there's going to have to figure out if that's something that the judge is concerned with or not. Yeah. Not my expertise on specifically all that, but I understand what their defense is. It does raise more questions for me, and whether or not the bank was it being in a different LLC and getting a second mortgage is concerning to me, but whether or not that rises to some other scrutinous level, it doesn't sit right with me, but that doesn't mean that they maybe did anything wrong with it, but they kind of blow that one off.
Okay, so as it stands right now, the bank and like attorneys or whatever, discovery has not started, so they can't access all these things to do the paper trail yet, right?
That's not what this is. This is the hearing on the receivership. They're filing now other complaints and motions would follow that, but what the bank is caring about right now is getting control of the company.
Yeah.
Other
put a rag over a wound, hold the blood in.
The other thing that they brought up was that Uncle Nearest had made payments. They made about $9 million in 2024 in payments, $7.5 million in 2025, and that there was a pause because of a third-party financial advisory firm that the plaintiff knew was advising them and said they were fine with, had said, when you're in negotiation like this, you pause the payments while you're negotiating it out. And they're like, they said, shouldn't we do it to show good faith? And he said, no, when you're in negotiation, you pause it. And that when they came to a somewhat of an agreement, they immediately paid $7.5 million to them this calendar year, that within 2025. So all that to say,
well, that seems
they're arguing
like good faith.
They're arguing that the only thing that would put them in default is what the CFO did by overstating the asset that was collateralized. They are arguing the other things are technicalities that stem from that, or not a big problem at all. They're arguing that, and so they also are saying that the collateral is not in immediate danger, and that they showed good faith by $16.5 million over 18 months, and that they're. And I'm going to read this quote directly from it because it was. I want to get it right. Here it is. No, maybe the second time. Here we go. But for the fraud of for the fraud perpetrated by defendant's former CFO, defendants fulfilled their monetary obligations to the plaintiff. In other words, defendants were and are victims of fraud, not perpetrators or conspirators. So that's what they're going to hinge on. Is that they are the victims of that employee that no longer works there, and that this needs to all go away. We'll see what the judge does. Like
I'd love to ask that CFO if that's how it went down.
Now, it still doesn't tell me they're in a great spot financially. It also does not alleviate all my questions from the allegations. And once again, we said many times, that's what the creditors were alleging. This is what the defense of Uncle Nearest is saying, nope, this is different. So these are the two sides now. You've got both sides of this story. Tomorrow's the hearing. We will find out what happens there, what the judge decides to do, and then we will let you know what we hear. But it is kind of the biggest intrigue that we've seen in the whiskey world recently, and it goes back to, I also still think, everything we said earlier, the uncertainty and the potential devastation to the local economy there, even just from...
Even optically.
Bad PR.
Yeah.
As well as the story that the brand tells have been tarnished by this whole thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it shakes out. We'll see what the judge decides to do. Like I said, if that judge decides to grant the receivership, Fawn and Keith are no longer running Uncle Nearest, and they're the founders. So, it's a lot to unpack. I like that it happened in real time. They're pulling this up.
I think you would agree with me with this on this, Will, but I really hope that all of this does get ironed out and that the business can continu.
Because as we were saying,
I don't want to
a little bit more of that. As we were over there drinking, this is you said the Master's Blend edition of the Uncle Nearest 18.
Yep. Batch 5.
Yeah. What's the proof on it?
118.4.
It's great. It's
great.
really
it does
good.
Not drink 118.
No, it's really, really solid.
Kind of closer to like 100, 105-ish. But
right, let us know what your thoughts are on all this.
Yeah, we don't want, I really hope that on paper and through all of the evidence or whatever that they find, that this is a bad actor.
Yeah.
And things can move on. The story can be continued to be told. Workers are still employed. City and economy in that area is safe. They're going to take a hit. Everybody's going to take a hit on this as the current climate is. But
and that's the other angle.
I would love to see that. I'm not sitting here, saying that, oh man, sharks in the water, this is awesome drama and all this other stuff. No, Fawn was so nice to me. I met her several times. I think she's very inspirational. All of this just kind of makes me sad and concerned in many ways, but it also doesn't look great. It also just doesn't look great. And I only know what I know. And
well, here's the other angle as well
that
may come out in the questioning or the attorneys for the bank. Because they're saying plaintiff's actions throughout these several months demonstrate that the plaintiff was not truly concerned that its collateral was in danger of being lost. Even now, its collateral is not in imminent danger of being lost, concealed, injured, diminished in value, or squandered absent a receiver.
Well, how can they say that if they sold off at a discount a ton of their stock?
Well, once again, those are the questions that we still have. But at the end of the day, the marketplace does put the business in imminent danger of diminished in value because everything is going down. So I wonder, not that would necessarily bear out, but they could say the spending wasn't responsible in wanting to do this, and they could say because of the market conditions. They could say marketing, we're trying to grow the brand, whatever. It may not matter at all. But when you look at all this in the context of everything we talked about at the beginning of this show, and sorry, folks, this is a long one.
Yep.
A long time tonight.
I put up an Instagram story today.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it, but I said I don't know how we're going to do an hour or less.
Yeah, but when you look at all that, there are real questions about the future of this brand. There are real questions about the future of many brands that have not been around that long, and this just adds a little bit of different drama to the entire situation, and they went pretty hard after the bank in their response.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whiskey community, the whiskey world, whiskey, economy, like we are positioned, or we are in the situation of understanding that like a lot of bad things are happening. Cooperage is being sold, tons of layoffs, market is going down. And so that kind of puts an attitude on our side of things. We're like, yeah, this makes sense. Like that, that something's just.
All right, here's the deal. We're driving to Chattanooga tomorrow and going to federal court and just hearing what it has to say, because it does say, given the multiple salacious and inaccurate allegations in both the plaintiff's complaint and motion that cast Uncle Nearest in a negative light, Uncle Nearest submits this response addressing certain key claims to correct the record and provide court with critical missing context. It will address these issues more fully at the August 7th hearing.
I want to go. I mean, I don't know how.
Can't make it happen, but
we could.
We know anybody in Chattanooga? Your mom used to live there.
She
She's
did.
Still there. If she were there, we'd say go in there and just hit record on a button.
Nope. I would not. I'm not going to send her into a courthouse.
Excuse me, my son, the Greeze, asked me to be here. When do I get to testify?
Hey, Fawn.
When do I get to testify?
My son loves you. His name's Greeze. Hope everything's okay.
She goes and buys an Uncle Nearest T-shirt on the way. Like, it's great. All right, should we do the 15 review? We shouldn't. Okay,
no,
we'll save it for another week.
We did it.
This was a buy, by the way.
It was definitely. Now it's like $200.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's expensive.
Wish I'd known that. I don't know if it's $200 good.
It's.
I'd pay $100 for it.
Easy.
Yeah, it's $100 whiskey. $200 is too much.
It is very tasty.
Got a service.
It's got a good oiliness to it. It's kind of crushable because it drinks way lower than 118. Definitely some really good barrel influence in it, and I don't know what the elements tasted like before it, but this blend is solid.
All right, folks, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to hang out with us on live calls, go to patreon.com/thepodcast and join up there. We do a thing called Town Hall and Virtual Bar Night. It's a real fun time.
I love that you call them live calls.
They're live calls. They're not pre-taped.
It's like a video conference call.
Yeah, it's a live call.
We just sit around and be like, what are you drinking?
Hey, we don't know Jack.
But we'll drink it, baby.